Ebun Olu-Adegboruwa joins us as a legal practitioner. We're still looking at the fight against corruption. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Your colleague speaking with us in Abuja is still there, and we should be getting back to him, Mr. Obla. We were looking at the fight and the style that the agencies and even the government is going about this fight. For him, he says, is A-OK.
Well, I think that next to military rule, amongst the atrocities that our leaders have perpetrated upon our nation is corruption. And it happened in such a massive scale that over the past 20-something years, we've had this looting of our commonwealth and patrimony. And so when anybody comes and say, I want to fight corruption, you ginger the hopes of the people, because that has led to a denial of infrastructure, that's led to death of people, that's led to eventually a collapse of our national life. So if any leader wants popularity, if any leader wants to gain people's attention, he will just get up and say, I want to fight corruption. All of us, 100%, every sector will rise up to support such a leader. That's why...
Have we always had it this way with every leader?
Oh, yes, of course. There's nobody who's not been fighting corruption in Nigeria or claiming to be fighting corruption in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, General Olusegun Obasanjo started this when he set up the ICPC and the EFCC. It was during Obasanjo's regime that we enacted the EFCC Act and the ICPC Act. And Yaradua,
which some people criticized then as being unnecessary.
Well, we just said that it was at that time when those agencies were set up, we made the point that it should not be at the detriment of the existing institutions. For instance, the police is probably the most effective agency to fight corruption because they're everywhere. EFCC is just in Lagos and Abuja. The police stations are virtually in every locality of our country. And when you get to sections 98, 99, and 100 of the Criminal Code Act, you will see corruption and corrupt offenses listed there as being part of our national statute. That
so
the police
are you still
use.
of the opinion then that these agencies of government were totally unnecessary?
No, what we said was that it will not be that you take it as a political device to witch hunt your opponents, and then that will be to the detriment of the existing institutions or agencies of law enforcement like the police or those other agencies.
Are you saying there is some kind of witch hunting going on?
Well, I was making allusion to getting to that point.
Go ahead then.
To say then that when General Muhammadu Buhari was campaigning, he made anti-corruption as a major campaign issue. And since he has gotten into government, that has been our national anthem. You wake up every day, you drink anti-corruption. You go to the toilet, you evacuate anti-corruption. So it's become the only song we hear. And the point that we are making is that this seems to be a distraction. We support the anti-corruption war. As a matter of fact, like Mr. Obla said, corruption is all pervasive. It's not just in stealing money. Corruption is in abuse of office. It happens on the table of the civil servant. It happens in the National Assembly. It happens in the barracks. It happens everywhere. So if you say you want to fight corruption as a major program, it should be at the detriment of development, of infrastructure. If that is the only attention you have, and that's what's going on now, that we don't hear stories about what we're doing to tackle blackout. We don't hear stories about what we're doing to tackle the rot in the educational system. We don't hear what we're doing to see the emergency that is happening in the judiciary, such that we need to declare a state of emergency in the judiciary.
Mr. Adegboruwa, a moment here. Sorry, Mark, but some will argue with you and say that's totally unfair and uncharitable towards those sectors, because it would seem as if they've been talking. Just recently, the Power Works and Housing Minister has been speaking concerning the explosion that happened around the Excravos area, and talking about the gas supply that has been cut short. And we have also heard even the health minister talking about the health sector. But for corruption, the way you painted it, doesn't that show why we wake up and we sleep and we also talk about corruption? Because you have also just said that it is in almost all sectors of our national life. And if that is what it is big, that we should talk about it.
Well, I have no problem about talking about it or taking steps towards addressing it. But if you really want to fight corruption, the gateway to that battle is the judiciary. Because the president can't fight corruption. The executive can't fight corruption. When you say I'm fighting corruption, you are talking about the office of the Attorney General, you are talking about the courts, you are talking about the statutory law enforcement agencies like EFCC, ICPC. And when you analyze or x-ray these agencies, it will be clear to you that there's no serious war going on. If you can follow me today to go to the office of the EFCC in Lagos, here at least, where I have been to several times, there are no tables. There is no electricity. The EFCC operatives that I have met on several times are using their personal stationaries, personal computers to conduct investigation. And why are the high-profile cases collapsing in court? Very simple. There is no enough manpower to go around all the corruption cases. There is no facility. There is no method of research or investigation to come out with hard facts that will enable you to nail a high-profile case. But when you get a Yahoo man, or you get an ordinary person who has no money, who has no relative, you take him to EFCC office and beat him up or hang him, and you get a confessional statement from him. And then the next day he's in court, he's been so intimidated and battered, he has no lawyer. In another 1 week, you get a conviction. But when it's a high-profile case with somebody who is a public figure, who has resources, when you invite him, he goes there with maybe 2 senior advocates. So when he sits with you, he folds his hands. He waits for you to bring all the evidence you have. And you try to force him, he doesn't agree. So you carry your half-baked corruption case to court, lawyers pick it one by one and begin to tear it into shreds. And then in another 1 week, you come with another amended charge. In another 1 week, you come with another amended charge. From 101 counts, you reduce it to 50. Eventually, you reduce it to 10. Eventually, the charge is struck out. I'm sure you remember Timmy Silva's case. You remember Fani Kayode's cases. So the problem is not actually that of the EFCC, that there's no funding. You look at the budget, how much is earmarked for anti-corruption war? When you leave the EFCC, you go to the judiciary. Because after the EFCC has finished all investigation, then you take it to the court. Because you cannot proclaim a person guilty unless there is a verdict from the court. Go to the Lagos State High Court today, or the Magistrates Court. There's no electricity. Average, a case a judge has on a day to handle is about 50. So what happens? There is no way a human being can conduct a serious trial of 15 cases in a day. It's not possible.
Okay, so let's first of all get this. Let's compartmentalize our discussion, as it were, because it would seem that what you're saying now is not so much criticism for the way the war has been prosecuted, but the fact that if you're even going to go further, you have not taken care of certain areas. For instance, you haven't taken care of the investigative agencies. You also haven't taken care of the judiciary. But some people will say, yes, the president may be able to take care of the EFCC and the ICPC, but what can he do with the judiciary? It's another independent arm of government.
No. The judiciary is not independent.
It isn't?
In the country we run presently,
yes,
the executive has hijacked the judiciary. You know the war that judicial workers have been fighting for the past 5 years is to liberate judiciary from the hold of the executive. The office of the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice is in control of the judiciary in virtually all the states in terms of funding. Because he who pays the piper will dictate the tune. When the judiciary has no right to his own funds, there is no independence.
But at the federal, the judiciary is independent.
No. And this is the point that we are making every day, that if we want to fight any war, let's go around all the federal high courts or the national institutions. Ask them when last was the salary reviewed. I did an investigation. I discovered that in Lagos State, the last time that the salary of judges was reviewed is 2007. As I'm speaking to you, there are judges who have not been paid December salaries. Are they not human beings? Every judge in Lagos State has average of 20 judgments outstanding to deliver, over 30 rulings. So when you go to court and you adopt your case, you say, I cannot give you a date. The ones are giving date, I'm here to deliver the judgments. Because we run a state in which the executive is deliberately silencing judiciary. Because when you come to a country, you have the judiciary, the legislature, the executive. The executive is the one implementing policies, taking over people's land by force, locking up people through the police in stations. So when the judiciary is effective, the executive becomes supervised. to do its roles according to law. So the executive takes a deliberate attempt to silence the judiciary with lack of funding, to ensure that all its illegal actions are not properly challenged.